Months turned into years, and life on Earth continued to evolve in the shadow of the Vraxian invasion. The scars of that fateful day had faded, but the lessons remained etched into the collective memory of humanity. Cities rebuilt stronger than before, equipped with advanced defenses and early warning systems designed to detect any threat from the stars. Space exploration became a global priority, not just for discovery, but as a means of ensuring Earth's safety. Humanity was no longer content to gaze at the stars. It sought to understand them. Alex Carter stood atop a hill one crisp evening, staring up at the night sky. The air was cool, and the stars twinkled brightly, their light traveling unimaginable distances to reach him. He thought about the Vraxians, their sleek ships, their strange technology, and their ultimate failure. They had underestimated Earth's gravity, a force so fundamental that it had become humanity's unlikely savior. But Alex knew better than to take anything for granted. Somewhere out there, beyond the reach of telescopes and satellites, other civilizations might be watching, waiting. Rachel Meyer joined him, carrying a thermos of hot tea. She handed him a cup and followed his gaze upward. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked quietly. "I don't know," Alex admitted, taking the sip. "But if they do, we'll be ready." Their work over the past few years had transformed the way humanity approached the cosmos. Advances in gravitational technology, inspired by the grav bomb, had opened new possibilities, not just for defense but for exploration. Scientists were now developing spacecraft capable of manipulating gravity, allowing for faster and safer travel through space. It was a legacy born out of necessity, but one that promised to shape the future in ways no one could have predicted. Jake Monroe had found his place in this new era, working alongside engineers to refine tools like the portable gravity shield. His inventions had become integral to Earth's defense systems, earning him recognition as a pioneer in applied physics. Yet despite his success, Jake remained humble, always quick to credit the team effort that had brought humanity through its darkest hour. On weekends, he returned to his workshop, tinkering with ideas that might one day carry humans to the stars. Laura Bennett's documentary Gravity's Edge had become a cornerstone of modern education, shown in schools and universities around the world. Her footage served as both a reminder of humanity's fragility and a testament to its resilience. Though she continued to document stories of innovation and progress, Laura often found herself reflecting on the people who had inspired her, ordinary individuals who had risen to extraordinary challenges. Their courage reminded her that even in the face of overwhelming odds, hope could prevail. Captain Ryan Hayes retired from active duty, choosing instead to dedicate his time to mentoring young pilots and engineers. He and Emily moved to a quiet town near the mountains, where they built a home filled with memories of their journey together. Ryan still thought about the fallen comrades he had left behind, but he found peace in knowing that their sacrifice had not been in vain. Humanity had endured, and in doing so, it had grown stronger. One evening, as the group gathered once more under the stars, Alex broke the silence. "You know," he said, "the Vraxians may have failed, but they taught us something important. We're not alone in the universe, and that's both a challenge and an opportunity." Laura nodded, raising her camera to capture the moment. "And we're ready for whatever comes next." The others smiled, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of distant stars. They didn't know what the future held, whether it would bring peace or peril, but they were certain of one thing. Humanity had proven itself capable of adapting, fighting, and thriving. The story of Earth's resilience was far from over, and each of them was determined to play their part in writing the next chapter. As the night deepened, the group lingered on the hill, their laughter carried gently by the breeze. Above them, the stars shone brightly, infinite and unknowable. For now, Earth was safe, but the universe was vast, and its mysteries awaited. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. As winter approached, the world continued to rebuild, but the lessons of the Vraxian invasion lingered in everyone's minds. The victory had been celebrated, yet it also served as a stark reminder of humanity's vulnerability. Earth was no longer seen as just a planet. It was a prize, rich with resources and ripe for exploitation by any civilization advanced enough to reach it. This realization spurred nations to work together in ways they never had before, forging alliances and pooling resources to ensure that such an attack would never succeed again. Alex Carter and Rachel Meyer remained at the forefront of these efforts, their research expanding beyond the remnants of Vraxian technology. They began collaborating with international teams, sharing their findings and helping develop new systems to detect potential threats from space. One breakthrough came when they discovered a way to modify the grav bomb's design, creating smaller, more efficient versions that could be deployed quickly in emergencies. These grav pods became a cornerstone of Earth's planetary defense strategy. Jake Monroe, meanwhile, poured his energy into perfecting the portable gravity shield. His latest prototype showed promise, capable of generating a stable gravitational field strong enough to disrupt alien propulsion systems. Though still experimental, the device caught the attention of military leaders, who saw its potential as both a defensive tool and a deterrent. Jake worked tirelessly, driven by the belief that humanity needed every advantage it could get. Laura Bennett traveled across the globe, screening her documentary Gravity's Edge to audiences eager to understand what had happened and how close they had come to disaster. Her film resonated deeply, sparking conversations about unity, resilience, and the importance of preparedness. At each event, Laura emphasized the need for vigilance, reminding viewers that while the battle had been won, the war for Earth's future was far from over. Captain Ryan Hayes found purpose in his role as a mentor at the Veterans Center, where he helped others navigate the emotional toll of their experiences. Over time, he grew closer to Emily, finding comfort in her unwavering support. Together, they began volunteering at community events aimed at fostering unity and resilience. Ryan often spoke about the importance of looking out for one another, emphasizing that humanity's greatest strength lay in its ability to come together in times of crisis. One evening, the group reunited at Alex and Rachel's lab to review recent developments. The atmosphere was hopeful but tinged with caution. Satellite networks designed to monitor deep space had detected unusual activity near Earth's orbit, small, unexplained anomalies that raised concerns. While nothing definitive had emerged, the team knew better than to dismiss the signs. "We've come too far to let our guard down now," Alex said, pointing to a cluster of data points on the screen. "Whatever this is, we need to stay ahead of it." Rachel nodded, adding, "If there's one thing the Vraxians taught us, it's that we can't afford to wait until the last minute." Jake chimed in, holding up his latest gravity shield prototype. "With tools like this, we'll have a fighting chance, even if they come back." Laura filmed the discussion, capturing the determination etched on everyone's faces. She realized that while fear of the unknown still lingered, it no longer paralyzed them. Instead, it fueled their resolve to protect what they had fought so hard to save. As the meeting drew to a close, Ryan stepped outside, gazing up at the stars. The night sky was clear, dotted with countless pinpricks of light. He thought about the vastness of space and the civilizations that might exist beyond Earth's atmosphere. For a moment, he felt small, but then he remembered the courage and ingenuity humanity had shown during the invasion. If Earth could stand against the Vraxians, it could face whatever else the universe threw its way. Back inside, Alex joined him, handing him a cup of coffee. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Ryan smiled faintly. "Yeah," he replied, "just thinking about what's next." Alex followed his gaze upward, his expression thoughtful. "Whatever happens, we'll handle it. Together." The two men stood in silence, the weight of responsibility balanced by a quiet sense of hope. Humanity had proven itself capable of overcoming incredible odds, and that knowledge gave them the strength to face the future, no matter how uncertain it might be. Months had passed since the Vraxians' failed invasion, and while life on Earth seemed to return to a semblance of normalcy, the world was forever changed. The scars of the battle remained, both physical and emotional. But so did the lessons learned. Humanity had proven it could adapt, innovate, and unite in the face of overwhelming odds. Yet the unanswered questions about the Vraxians weighed heavily on everyone's minds. Alex Carter and Rachel Meyer continued their research, piecing together fragments of alien technology in hopes of understanding its purpose. One evening, as they sifted through data from the recovered communication systems, Alex made a startling discovery. Buried within the encoded messages was a pattern, a map of sorts, detailing locations across Earth rich in rare minerals. They weren't just looking for resources, he said, pointing to the screen. They were mapping out extraction sites. Rachel leaned closer, her brow furrowing. "This changes everything," she murmured. "If other civilizations know about these resources, Earth could become a target again." The implications were sobering. While humanity had survived this encounter, it was clear that Earth's natural wealth made it vulnerable. Governments around the world began drafting plans to protect these critical areas, investing in advanced surveillance systems and defensive technologies. Scientists like Alex and Rachel became key advisors, their expertise shaping strategies to safeguard the planet. Jake Monroe, inspired by the grav bomb's success, channeled his energy into developing new tools to strengthen Earth's defenses. He spent countless hours in his workshop, experimenting with designs that combined human engineering with insights gleaned from alien tech. His latest project was a portable gravity shield, a device capable of creating localized gravitational fields to repel invaders. Though still in its early stages, Jake believed it could one day serve as a vital line of defense. Laura Bennett completed her documentary, titling it *Gravity's Edge. Humanity's Stand*. The film premiered to widespread acclaim, capturing both the devastation of the invasion and the resilience of those who fought back. Viewers were moved by the stories of ordinary people rising to extraordinary challenges. Laura donated proceeds from the film to organizations supporting families affected by the conflict, ensuring that the sacrifices made during the battle would not be forgotten. For Captain Ryan Hayes, adjusting to civilian life proved difficult. Despite Emily's unwavering support, he struggled with survivor's guilt, haunted by memories of fallen comrades. To cope, he began volunteering at a veterans center, helping others process their experiences. Over time, he found solace in sharing his story and listening to theirs. It wasn't easy, but slowly he started to heal. One crisp autumn morning, the group gathered at a hill overlooking the city where the invasion had begun. Alex brought along a prototype of Jake's gravity shield, eager to demonstrate its potential. As they watched the sun rise over the skyline, Laura captured the moment on camera, framing the scene against the backdrop of a rebuilt world. "It's beautiful," she said softly. "Almost hard to believe what happened here." Ryan nodded, his gaze distant. "We came close to losing everything," he said. "But we didn't, and that's something worth holding on to." Jake grinned, holding up the gravity shield. "And next time, we'll be ready," he added, his confidence bolstered by the progress they'd made. As the group stood together, united by shared experiences and a renewed sense of purpose, they couldn't help but feel hopeful. The threat of future invasions loomed large, but humanity had proven itself capable of facing even the most daunting challenges. Whatever lay ahead, they knew they wouldn't face it alone. The sky stretched endlessly above them, filled with stars that hinted at mysteries yet to be uncovered. For now, though, Earth was safe, and that was enough. Weeks passed, and the world began to settle into a fragile sense of normalcy. The victory over the Vraxians was celebrated as a triumph of human ingenuity and resilience, but beneath the surface, tensions lingered. Governments worked tirelessly to strengthen Earth's defenses, pouring resources into research and development. Scientists like Alex Carter and Rachel Meyer were at the forefront of these efforts, studying the remnants of the alien ships in hopes of learning more about their technology. Alex spent long hours in the lab, examining pieces of the Vraxian vessels that had been recovered from crash sites. The materials were unlike anything he'd ever seen, lightweight yet incredibly strong, with properties that defied conventional physics. "If we can replicate this," he said one evening, holding up a shard of alien metal, "it could change everything." Rachel nodded, though her expression was cautious. "We need to be careful," she reminded him. "This isn't just about advancing technology. It's about understanding who they were and why they came here. Until we know more, we're flying blind." Their conversations often circled back to unanswered questions. Why had the Vraxians targeted Earth? Was it truly conquest they sought, or was there another motive? And perhaps most troubling, would others follow in their wake? These uncertainties haunted not only the scientists, but also leaders around the globe who were scrambling to prepare for any future threats. Meanwhile, Jake Monroe returned to his garage workshop, where he tinkered with machines and tools late into the night. Though life was slowly returning to normal, he couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was coming. The experience of working alongside Alex and Rachel had opened his eyes to possibilities he'd never considered before. Now, he found himself sketching designs for new devices, inspired by the grav bomb, but imagining ways to improve it. Laura Bennett, on the other hand, threw herself into editing the documentary she had been working on since the invasion. Her footage captured both the chaos of battle and the quiet moments of hope that followed. She wanted people to remember not just the destruction, but the courage and unity that had carried humanity through its darkest hour. As she reviewed the clips, she felt a deep sense of responsibility to honor those who had sacrificed so much and to remind the world of what they were capable of achieving together. Captain Ryan Hayes struggled to adjust to life after the mission. Though hailed as a hero, he felt uneasy about the attention. Every time someone thanked him or praised his bravery, he thought of the pilots who hadn't made it back. Their faces haunted his dreams, reminding him of the cost of victory. Emily tried to help him cope, encouraging him to talk about what he'd been through, but Ryan kept his emotions locked away, afraid of burdening her with his pain. One afternoon, Alex invited Jake, Laura, Ryan, and Emily to meet at the lab. He had something important to share, a discovery that could shed light on the Vraxians' motives. When they arrived, he led them to a table covered in strange artifacts recovered from the alien ships. "We've been analyzing their communication systems," he explained, pointing to a glowing device in the center of the table. "It seems they weren't just here to conquer. They were looking for something." "What do you mean?" Laura asked, leaning closer. "They left behind traces of encoded messages," Alex continued. "From what we can tell, they were searching for resources, specifically rare elements found deep within Earth's crust." Ryan frowned. "So they weren't trying to wipe us out?" "It's possible," Rachel interjected. "But that doesn't mean they wouldn't have if we resisted. Either way, this changes things. If we can figure out exactly what they wanted, we might be able to anticipate the actions of other potential invaders." The group fell silent, absorbing the implications of Alex's words. Humanity had won the battle, but the war wasn't over, not entirely. Somewhere out there, among the stars, other civilizations might see Earth as a target. The question was no longer whether they could defend themselves, but how well they could prepare. As the sun set outside the lab windows, casting long shadows across the room, Laura raised her camera and snapped a photo of the group. In that moment, they weren't just survivors or heroes. They were proof that even in the face of overwhelming odds, humanity could find a way to endure. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The aftermath of the battle left the world in a state of shock and awe. News of humanity's victory spread quickly, sparking celebrations in cities and towns across the globe. People poured into the streets, waving flags and cheering for the heroes who had saved Earth. Yet, amidst the jubilation, there was also an undercurrent of sadness. Many had lost loved ones. Soldiers, pilots, and civilians caught in the crossfire. The cost of survival was heavy, and no one could forget that. Back at the airbase, the mood was somber despite the success. Ryan Hayes sat on the edge of a runway, his flight suit still streaked with soot and dirt. His hands trembled as he held a cup of coffee someone had handed him. He felt numb, unable to fully process what had just happened. Emily sat beside him, her arm around his shoulders. She didn't say much. She simply stayed close, knowing words wouldn't ease the weight he carried. Jake Monroe wandered through the base, checking on the remaining jets and speaking quietly with the ground crew. He wasn't used to being in the spotlight, but people kept thanking him for his role in the mission. It made him uncomfortable. "I just did my job," he muttered when someone praised him again. Deep down, though, he felt a flicker of pride. His knowledge of machines, and his willingness to step up, had played a small but important part in humanity's triumph. Laura Bennett stood near the command center, reviewing the footage she had captured during the operation. Her camera had survived the chaos, recording every moment of the daring strike against the Vraxians. Now she edited the clips together, creating a documentary that would tell the story of how humanity had fought back. As she worked, tears welled up in her eyes. She thought about the bravery she had witnessed, the pilots risking their lives, the scientists working tirelessly, the soldiers standing firm even when hope seemed lost. Meanwhile, Alex Carter and Rachel Meyer were back at the lab, analyzing data from the grav bombs. They wanted to understand exactly how the devices had destabilized the Vraxians' technology. "This changes everything," Alex said, staring at the computer screen. "If we can harness this kind of power, it could revolutionize space exploration or defense." Rachel nodded, though her expression was thoughtful. "We need to be careful," she cautioned. "This kind of technology could easily be misused. We have to make sure it's used for good." Their work was far from over. While the immediate threat had been neutralized, questions lingered about the Vraxians' motives. Why had they come to Earth? Was it truly conquest they sought, or something else entirely? And most importantly, would others follow? These uncertainties weighed heavily on everyone's minds. In the days that followed, governments around the world began holding meetings to discuss the future. Leaders realized that humanity couldn't rely on luck or last-minute ingenuity to survive another attack. Plans were drawn up to improve Earth's defenses, including early warning systems and new technologies inspired by the grav bomb. Scientists like Alex and Rachel became key figures in these efforts, their expertise invaluable in preparing for whatever might come next. For ordinary people, life slowly returned to normal, or at least as normal as it could be after such an event. Schools reopened, businesses resumed operations, and families tried to heal from the trauma of the invasion. But the scars remained. Empty seats at dinner tables reminded people of those who hadn't come home. Craters left by fallen alien ships served as stark reminders of how close humanity had come to destruction. Despite the challenges, there was also a renewed sense of unity. Strangers greeted each other warmly, grateful simply to be alive. Communities came together to rebuild, sharing resources and offering support. The shared struggle had forged bonds that transcended borders and cultures. One evening, Alex found himself outside, gazing up at the stars. The sky looked peaceful now, but he knew better than to take it for granted. Somewhere out there, beyond the reach of Earth's gravity, untold mysteries and potential threats waited. For now, though, humanity had proven it could adapt, innovate, and fight back. Whatever the future held, Alex believed they would face it together. As he turned to head inside, he noticed Laura nearby, her camera slung over her shoulder. She smiled faintly, nodding toward the horizon. "Looks like the dawn of a new era," she said softly. Alex nodded in agreement. "Let's just hope we're ready for it." The moment of truth had arrived. The strike team gathered at the airbase, their faces etched with determination and fear. Captain Ryan Hayes stood at the center, addressing his pilots and crew one last time. "This is it," he said, his voice steady despite the weight of the mission. "We've got one shot to make this work. Stick to the plan, stay focused, and trust each other." Jake Monroe and Laura Bennett were there too, standing near the edge of the runway. They weren't soldiers, but they had volunteered to join the operation, knowing their insights could mean the difference between success and failure. Jake clutched a small device linked to the grav bombs. It allowed him to monitor their status remotely. Laura held her camera tightly, determined to capture every second of what was about to happen. As dawn broke, the fighter jets roared to life, their engines shaking the ground beneath everyone's feet. Each plane carried a single grav bomb, its power amplified thanks to Alex and Rachel's calculations. The scientists had worked tirelessly to ensure the devices would function as intended, but there were no guarantees. This was uncharted territory, and failure wasn't an option. Ryan climbed into the cockpit of his jet, taking a deep breath before signaling for takeoff. One by one, the planes ascended into the sky, leaving trails of smoke behind them. Below, Emily Hayes watched silently, her hands clasped together in prayer. She wanted to believe her husband would return safely, but the uncertainty gnawed at her. The journey to the alien fleet was fraught with danger. As the jets approached, the Vraxians wasted no time responding. Their massive ships unleashed barrages of energy weapons, lighting up the sky with bursts of green and blue. The human pilots dodged and weaved through the chaos, their training pushed to the limit. Explosions erupted around them, rocking the planes violently, but they pressed on, driven by sheer willpower. Jake and Laura followed the action from a command vehicle on the ground, their eyes glued to the monitors displaying live footage from the jets. "They're almost in range," Jake said, his voice tense. He adjusted the settings on his device, ensuring the grav bombs were ready to deploy. Laura filmed the scene, her hands trembling slightly. She zoomed in on the alien mothership, its sleek surface gleaming ominously in the sunlight. It was enormous, dwarfing the jets like insects buzzing around a mountain. Despite the odds, she couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. Humanity might not have advanced technology or superior numbers, but they had something the Vraxians didn't: resilience. Back in the air, Ryan led the charge, guiding his squadron toward the heart of the alien fleet. The grav bombs were designed to target the largest ships first, the ones generating the most anti-gravity interference. As they reached the optimal position, Ryan gave the order: "Deploy the bombs now." One by one, the pilots released the devices, sending them hurtling toward the alien vessels. For a few agonizing moments, nothing happened. Then, the grav bombs activated, creating ripples in the air that distorted everything around them. The Vraxian ships shuddered violently, their once smooth surfaces buckling under the sudden increase in gravitational force. On the ground, Jake monitored the readings, his heart racing. "It's working," he exclaimed. "Their systems are destabilizing." But the aliens weren't going down without a fight. Smaller drones swarmed the jets, forcing the pilots to split their focus. Ryan narrowly avoided a collision as he maneuvered his plane through the chaos. "Stay calm," he shouted over the radio. "We're almost done." The Vraxian ships began to collapse, their anti-gravity systems overwhelmed by Earth's amplified gravity. One by one, they plummeted from the sky, crashing harmlessly into uninhabited areas far from cities. The explosions were deafening, shaking the ground miles away, but the relief among the humans was palpable. As the last ship fell, the remaining drones retreated, disappearing into the horizon. The battle was over, and humanity had won, but at a cost. Several jets had been lost, and many lives had been sacrificed. Ryan's plane limped back to base, its wings scorched and battered. When he stepped out of the cockpit, exhaustion written all over his face, Emily ran to him, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You did it," she whispered, hugging him tightly. Ryan nodded, looking at the others who had returned. "We did it," he corrected softly. "Together." The victory was bittersweet, but it marked the beginning of a new chapter. The Vraxians' invasion had been thwarted, but questions remained. Why had they come? Would others follow? For now, though, humanity could breathe a sigh of relief, knowing they had faced the impossible and triumphed. The clock was ticking, and the pressure in the lab was almost unbearable. Alex and Rachel worked side by side, their faces lit by the glow of computer screens as they analyzed the data Jake and Laura had brought back. The information confirmed their theory. The Vraxians' anti-gravity technology was sensitive to Earth's gravitational field. If they could amplify that field, it might be enough to disable the alien ships. But turning this idea into a practical solution was no small task. "We need something powerful," Alex said, sketching out a rough design on a whiteboard. "Something that can generate a localized gravitational surge." Rachel nodded, her mind racing. "It'll have to be portable too," she added. "If we're going to deploy it against their ships, we can't rely on stationary equipment." As they debated the details, Captain Ryan Hayes entered the room. His presence commanded attention, but his expression was grim. "We don't have much time," he said bluntly. "The Vraxians are getting restless. If we don't act soon, they'll start attacking cities." Alex turned to face him, determination in his eyes. "We think we found a way to stop them," he explained. "But we'll need your help to make it work." Ryan crossed his arms, listening intently as Alex outlined the plan. The idea was simple yet daring. Create a device, nicknamed the Grav Bomb, that could temporarily increase Earth's gravity in a specific area. When deployed near the alien ships, it would destabilize their anti-gravity systems, causing them to crash. It was risky, but it was the best chance humanity had. "I'm in," Ryan said without hesitation. "What do you need from us?" Over the next several hours, the team worked tirelessly to build the Grav Bomb. Engineers assembled the device using whatever materials they could find, while Alex and Rachel fine-tuned the calculations. Laura stayed close by, documenting every step of the process. She knew how important it was to share this story with the world, not just as a record of humanity's struggle, but as proof that even in the darkest moments, people could come together to fight for survival. Jake, meanwhile, helped the engineers test the device. Though he wasn't a scientist, his mechanical expertise proved invaluable. He suggested modifications to make the Grav Bomb more durable and easier to transport. "This thing has to survive a ride through enemy territory," he reminded everyone. "We can't afford any mistakes." By sunrise, the first prototype was ready. It was smaller than anyone expected, a compact cylinder filled with wires and circuits, but it carried immense potential. The team loaded it onto a military truck, preparing for a trial run outside the city. Ryan led the convoy, his jaw set with resolve. They couldn't risk testing the device near civilians, not when so much was at stake. At the designated location, the team set up the Grav Bomb and activated it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. Rocks shifted, and loose objects were pulled toward the device, as if drawn by an invisible force. The air felt heavier, making it harder to move. Everyone watched in awe as the experiment succeeded. The Grav Bomb worked. "This is it," Alex said, his voice filled with both excitement and relief. "If we can replicate this effect near the Vraxian ships, we might actually stand a chance." But there was no time to celebrate. The trial had drained the device's power, and building more would take hours. Meanwhile, reports came in that the Vraxians were growing impatient. Their ships had begun moving closer to populated areas, and skirmishes between their drones and human forces were escalating. Back at headquarters, the mood was tense but focused. Ryan gathered his team, briefing them on the mission ahead. "This won't be easy," he warned. "But if we succeed, we'll save millions of lives. Are you with me?" Every soldier in the room nodded, their expressions resolute. Jake and Laura volunteered to join the mission too, knowing their knowledge of the alien zone could prove vital. As the group prepared to leave, Emily Hayes, Ryan's wife, arrived to see him off. Her eyes were red from crying, but she managed a weak smile. "Come back to me," she whispered, hugging him tightly. "I will," Ryan promised, though neither of them knew if it was true. With the Grav Bombs loaded onto fighter jets and the strike team ready to deploy, Humanity prepared for its final stand. The odds were still stacked against them, but for the first time since the invasion began, there was hope. Hope that Earth's gravity, the very force that kept them grounded, might also be the key to their salvation. Jake and Laura crouched behind the remains of an old truck, their hearts pounding as the Vraxian drones circled above. The machines were sleek and metallic, their movements precise and deliberate. They emitted a low hum that sent shivers down Laura's spine. Every instinct told her to run, but she knew they couldn't afford to make a wrong move. One wrong step, and the drones would be on them in seconds. "This isn't good," Jake muttered under his breath, clutching the sensor equipment tightly. He glanced at the van, now useless and abandoned a few meters away. "If we don't get out of here soon, we're done for." Laura nodded, her fingers trembling as she adjusted the settings on her camera. She had promised herself she would document everything, no matter how dangerous it got. But now, staring at the alien drones, she wasn't sure if she'd survived long enough to share the footage. Still, she pressed record, capturing the eerie scene unfolding around them. "People need to see this," she whispered, more to herself than to Jake. The drones hovered closer, scanning the area with bright beams of light. It was clear they were searching for something or someone. Jake and Laura held their breath, trying to stay as still as possible. The heavy feeling in the air made every movement feel like a struggle, but they couldn't risk being spotted. After what felt like an eternity, the drones moved farther away, focusing their attention on another part of the zone. "Now's our chance," Jake said quietly, grabbing Laura's arm. "We need to move, fast." They darted from one piece of cover to the next, using debris and abandoned vehicles to shield themselves from the drone's view. Each step was exhausting, the strange gravitational pull making it feel like they were carrying weights on their backs. But they pushed forward, driven by sheer determination. The sensor equipment was their only hope of proving Alex's theory, and they couldn't let it fall into enemy hands. As they reached the edge of the activity zone, the oppressive weight began to ease slightly. Breathing became easier, and their movements less labored. Jake stopped for a moment, leaning against a crumbling wall to catch his breath. "We're almost there," he said, glancing back at the alien ships looming in the distance. "Just a little farther." But their relief was short-lived. A sudden burst of noise erupted behind them, the sound of engines roaring to life. Jake and Laura turned just in time to see a group of human soldiers approaching in armored jeeps. At the lead was Captain Ryan Hayes, a decorated pilot known for his bravery under pressure. His sharp eyes scanned the area before landing on Jake and Laura. "What are you two doing out here?" Ryan demanded, his voice firm but not unkind. "This is no place for civilians." "We're not just civilians," Laura replied quickly, holding up her camera. "We've been gathering data on the aliens' technology. It's important." Ryan raised an eyebrow, but didn't argue. Instead, he motioned for them to get into one of the jeeps. "Explain on the way back," he said. "We can't stay here. Those drones will be back any second." Jake and Laura climbed into the vehicle, grateful for the rescue but still anxious about the situation. As the convoy sped away, Laura replayed the footage she had captured, ensuring it was intact. Jake clutched the sensor equipment tightly, knowing how crucial it was to the scientists back at the lab. For the first time since entering the alien zone, they allowed themselves a small sense of hope. Back at headquarters, Alex and Rachel were waiting anxiously for news. When Jake and Laura arrived, they wasted no time sharing their findings. The data confirmed what Alex had suspected. The Vraxians' anti-gravity systems were interfering with Earth's natural gravitational field, while the aliens seemed to have adapted to their own technology. The same couldn't be said for Earth's environment. "This could be our advantage," Alex said excitedly, pacing the room as he thought aloud. "If we can amplify Earth's gravity, we might be able to disrupt their systems entirely." Rachel nodded, her mind already racing with possibilities. "It won't be easy," she cautioned, "but if we succeed, it could turn the tide in our favor." The team worked through the night. brainstorming ways to weaponize their discovery. Meanwhile, Ryan and his men prepared for the inevitable confrontation. Time was running out, and everyone knew the stakes couldn't be higher. Humanity's survival depended on finding a way to fight back. And fast. The next morning, the world woke up to a grim reality. The Vraxians' ultimatum loomed over everyone like a storm cloud that refused to pass. 24 hours wasn't much time, and already the weight of the situation was crushing. People huddled in shelters, glued to their phones and TVs, waiting for any sign of hope. Governments held emergency meetings, but no one had a clear plan. The aliens' technology was far beyond anything humanity had ever seen, and their demands left no room for negotiation. Laura Bennett didn't sleep that night. She couldn't. As a journalist, she felt it was her duty to keep reporting, to make sure people knew what was happening. Armed with her camera and notebook, she ventured back into the deserted streets of New York City. The once bustling metropolis now felt like a ghost town. Shops were closed, cars abandoned, and the air was thick with tension. Even the birds seemed to have vanished, as if nature itself was holding its breath. As she walked, Laura noticed something strange. Near one of the smaller alien ships, objects on the ground appeared distorted, almost as though gravity was behaving differently. A newspaper fluttered unnaturally slowly before settling on the pavement. A soda can rolled in slow motion, despite the absence of wind. It was subtle, but undeniable. Laura filmed the scene, her mind racing. Could this be some kind of side effect of the Vraxians' presence? If so, what did it mean? Meanwhile, Alex Carter was hard at work at the university lab. He hadn't left since the previous day, fueled by coffee and adrenaline. Alongside other scientists, he pored over data, trying to understand the Vraxians' technology. When Laura's footage reached the team, Alex immediately recognized its significance. "This could be important," he said, pointing at the screen. "It looks like their ships are affecting Earth's gravitational field." Dr. Rachel Meyer, the lead physicist on the team, nodded thoughtfully. "If that's true, it might explain why they're using anti-gravity propulsion systems," she added. "But we need more evidence. We can't jump to conclusions based on just one observation." Determined to get answers, Alex suggested sending someone closer to the alien ships to gather more data. But who would volunteer for such a dangerous mission? That's when Jake Monroe stepped forward. Jake was a mechanic who had been helping repair vehicles used by emergency responders. He wasn't a scientist or a soldier, but he knew machines better than anyone else. "I'll do it," he said firmly. "If you need someone to check things out, I'm your guy." Jake's offer surprised everyone, but they didn't have time to hesitate. With Alex and Rachel's guidance, they outfitted an old van with sensors designed to measure gravitational anomalies. Laura insisted on coming along, eager to document the expedition. "People need to see what's happening," she argued. "If we don't show them, how will they believe us?" Early that afternoon, Jake and Laura set off toward the heart of the alien activity zone. The journey was tense and nerve-wracking. Every step closer to the ships made the air feel heavier, as though an invisible force was pressing down on them. By the time they reached the outskirts of the area, even walking felt exhausting. "This is insane," Jake muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. "It's like trying to move through water." Despite the discomfort, they pressed on. The sensors in the van began picking up unusual readings, confirming Alex's theory. The Vraxian ships were indeed disrupting Earth's gravity. But just as they were about to record more data, disaster struck. The van sputtered and died, its engine unable to cope with the strange conditions. Stranded and exposed, Jake and Laura exchanged worried glances. They weren't alone for long. Moments later, a group of Vraxian drones descended from the sky, their glowing eyes locking onto the intruders. Panic surged through Jake, but he forced himself to stay calm. "We need to get out of here," he whispered, grabbing the sensor equipment. Laura nodded, clutching her camera tightly. Together, they scrambled to find cover, knowing that their lives depended on staying one step ahead of the advancing drones. The aliens may have come to conquer Earth, but humanity wasn't ready to give up without a fight. It started on a calm Tuesday morning, the kind of day where nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The sun was shining brightly over New York City, and people were going about their usual routines. Children walked to school, business people hurried to work, and tourists snapped photos of famous landmarks. But then something strange happened. The clear blue sky suddenly turned an eerie shade of green, like nothing anyone had ever seen before. At first, people thought it was some kind of weather phenomenon, or maybe even a trick of the light. But as they looked up, their curiosity quickly turned to fear. A massive object was descending from the sky. It wasn't an airplane or a satellite. It was too big, too alien. The object glowed faintly, its surface shimmering like liquid metal. As it got closer, the ground beneath people's feet began to tremble slightly, sending a wave of panic through the streets. Among those staring in awe and terror was Alex Carter, a young astrophysicist who worked at a nearby university. Alex had always been fascinated by space and the possibility of life beyond Earth. He'd spent countless nights studying stars and planets, wondering if humanity would ever make contact with extraterrestrial beings. But this was not what he had imagined. Instead of peaceful exploration, it felt like the beginning of something far more dangerous. The huge ship hovered above the city for several tense minutes, casting a shadow that made everything feel colder. Then smaller ships started emerging from the larger one. They moved with incredible speed and precision, spreading out across the city. People screamed and ran in every direction, unsure of what was coming next. Cars screeched to a halt, and the sound of breaking glass filled the air as panicked crowds pushed against shop windows and doors. Laura Bennett, a local journalist, was covering a story downtown when the chaos erupted. She grabbed her camera and started filming, knowing this was something the world needed to see. Her hand shook as she recorded the alien ships hovering ominously above the skyline. "This is Laura Bennett reporting live from New York City," she said into her microphone, trying to keep her voice steady. "A massive unidentified object has appeared in the sky, and smaller crafts are now deploying. We don't know what these beings want, but it's clear they're not here for friendly reasons." Back at his apartment, Alex watched the news unfold on TV. His mind raced as he tried to process what he was seeing. He knew enough about physics and engineering to understand that building such advanced technology required knowledge far beyond human capabilities. Whoever, or whatever, these aliens were, they weren't just visiting casually. They had come prepared, and that meant trouble. As the day wore on, the situation grew worse. The aliens broadcast a message across all frequencies, their voices deep and mechanical, speaking in broken English. "We are Vraxians," the voice boomed. "You will surrender your planet within 24 hours. Resistance is futile." The ultimatum sent shockwaves around the globe. World leaders scrambled to respond, but no one knew how to fight against an enemy so powerful. Alex couldn't sit still. He felt useless watching from the sidelines while humanity faced its greatest threat. Determined to help, he packed his laptop and research notes and headed to the university lab. There, he joined a team of other scientists who had been called in to brainstorm solutions. They didn't have much time, but they all shared one goal: finding a way to protect Earth. Outside, the streets were eerily quiet. Most people had fled to shelters or stayed indoors, too afraid to venture outside. Laura continued filming, capturing both the fear and resilience of the city's residents. She interviewed a man barricading his shop window, a mother clutching her child tightly, and a group of teenagers trying to stay brave despite the uncertainty. Each story added another layer to the unfolding drama, reminding everyone that this wasn't just about nations or governments. It was about survival. By nightfall, the weight of the situation settled heavily over the world. The Vraxian ships remained in position, unmoving but menacing. No one knew what the next 24 hours would bring, but one thing was certain: Humanity was about to face a challenge unlike any it had encountered before, and somewhere in the midst of the chaos, Alex, Laura, and millions of others hoped that they could find a way to turn the tide.